Speaking of water treatment facilities, or this is just an example, a diagram of basically how water is cleaned up. A lot of water, would be an example of how you clean up uh, water from a surface source, such as a lake or a river. The water is first, has to be pumped out of the source. And then the first thing the water does is it passes through screens. The screen is going to filter out large objects. Okay, for example, fish. If a fish gets sucked up into the pump, fish or sticks or trash. Okay, the big stuff is going to be filtered out first. Then these chemicals called flocculating agents are added to the water, and it moves into this flocculator where there's paddles to mix the water around with the flocculating agents. And the flocculating agents are aluminum sulfate, and also calcium hydroxide. Okay, and these compounds will dissolve in the water slightly, and they will recombine to give aluminum hydroxide, and then calcium sulfate will just stay dissolved in the water. But the aluminum hydroxide is really what you're after here in this mix, because the aluminum hydroxide is not soluble, and it forms sort of like a gel-like substance mixed in with the water, and it attracts dirt and sand, clay, sand, dirt particles will stick to the aluminum hydroxide because they're similar in structure. There's a lot of aluminum in dirt and clay, and so it sticks to the aluminum hydroxide, and the particles grow bigger and bigger, and then they are pumped into the next tank, which is the settling tank, and then the dirt and the clay and the sand and whatnot settle out, stuck to this gel, and form this sludge on the bottom of the settling tank. And then the water on the top is pumped further on through another filter, which is a coal and sand filter. And in this filter, the organic molecules will adsorb to the coal and the sand, and then be separated in that way from the water. So the water is pretty clean by the time it gets past the settling tank and the filter. And the last two steps are the water itself is chlorinated and then fluoridated, and then it's just pumped into a storage tank. The reason why it's chlorinated is this step kills the bacteria that has made it through all these filters. Okay, kills the bacteria. Bacteria is the biggest problem in providing clean drinking water. Biggest problem in that it can kill bacteria, like in cholera kills thousands and thousands of people if it gets into the water supply before it can be cleaned up. So the bacteria gets killed by the chlorination. The fluoridation is not everybody does this, but the reason why fluorine is added to in the form of fluorine salts is added to the water is because it strengthens tooth enamel. Okay, and so it's kind of like a public health decision to fluoridate the water to prevent tooth decay. So it strengthens the tooth enamel. Not all cities do it, but most do. All right, and then it goes on into the storage system. All right, so this is how typically how surface water would be treated. If your water source is groundwater, like a aquifer, where a well has been drilled in, all of this part isn't necessary. All of this happens naturally just by water filtering through the earth. So none of this would be necessary. The treatment really starts right here with chlorination and fluoridation of aquifer water, because it's already clean enough at that point. The chlorination, it kills the bacteria, and then once the water goes into the storage and into all the water pipes to supply the city, there's a little bit of chlorine stays in the water because that keeps the water from getting contaminated with bacteria somewhere along the line. All right, so we always want to keep a little bit of chlorine in there. Some municipalities use ozone instead of chlorine compounds. Some use ozone. Ozone kills bacteria also. So chlorine can kill bacteria and ozone can kill bacteria, but ozone reacts very quickly. Once it reacts, it's gone. And so ozone can't continue to protect the water, all the way through the system as it's delivered to the homes. So even if you use ozone to kill most of the bacteria, a little bit of chlorine needs to be added to keep the water safe as it makes its way through the system.